Hello. So in this module, we're going to be talking about doing events the paid way. Doing events the paid way. A lot of times as creatives, whether we're comic creators or just creators in general, the things that we do are passions of ours and we'll get it out into the world. We'll do whatever it takes to get it out into the world. And oftentimes that involves, using our own money to make things happen. And I'm going to take you through some steps to put on an event that actually pays you for the work that you do and also gets everyone else involved in the event paid as well. And the example that I'm going to use is for book signing events. So let's say you just published a comic book or graphic novel, or you have something that, released a month or two ago, and you want to do a book signing event. You want people to come, you want to meet people, you want to sign and autograph the books. And typically that might include, buying the books from the publisher at a discounted price, or if you self-publish, buying from Amazon, and then you organize the event, pay all the people involved, and you either break even or you actually lose money on the event. And the whole time you're hoping that you sell all these books back in order to make a little bit of money. Or, you go to a comic book convention or festival, and it's the same process. You're hoping that you sell enough books to cover the cost of your travel and expenses and the expense of the table. And usually you do not, right? Or you break even. And so as we go through the steps of doing these events a little bit differently, the way that I'm going to teach you in order to make money at it, uh, it doesn't just have to be book signing events, right? You can use this strategy for any type of event. So again, the example that I'm going to give is a book signing event, but if that's not pertinent to you, you can substitute that for any kind of event. For example, you may have a podcast and maybe you want to do a live podcast recording session. You can use this strategy to do an event around your live podcast recording session and actually make money on the event. So I'm going to share my screen so that we can go through the steps on my nifty PowerPoint here. Not from the beginning. We want to go to events the paid way. Okay, so let's go. Events the paid way includes getting corporate sponsors. Now, when you hear corporate sponsors, especially as creatives who may not be as business minded as the business people, corporate sponsors is not a scary word. It's something that anybody can do. I'm going to share with you a sample email to show you how you actually reach out to people who own businesses. And we all have friends with businesses. So you just have to sit down and think through some of these steps. I'm going to help you along the way, but don't be scared off by the phrase corporate sponsors. We could just as well say, borrowing money from people that we have relationships with. And it's not even borrowing money, it's getting people that we have relationships with to fund our event. So here we go. Let's just put my video over here because that's just a stock image. Okay, so the first thing you're going to do is partner with a nonprofit. And so you may be thinking, well, I don't know anybody with a nonprofit. We all know people with nonprofits, right? We have friends that might have a nonprofit. Maybe they don't use the nonprofit much. Maybe they're looking for events to partner with. We all have worked with nonprofits or been customers of a nonprofit. So the first thing that you want to do is partner with a nonprofit. Start out with your own network. Anybody that you know that's doing nonprofit work, somebody that works for a nonprofit that may know the owner of a nonprofit. So the way that this events the paid way is going to work is that you find a nonprofit, that you have a relationship with, you reach out to them, you say, hey, I want to do an event. It's going to be event based on giving back to the community, and I want to partner with you. And the reason why you need to partner with a nonprofit is because they're actually going to process the payments from the sponsors. Because this way, when you reach out to sponsors, you're going to say, hey, I'm partnering with this nonprofit. If you fund us by giving us $1,000, $2,000, $3,000, you're actually going to get a tax write-off. So this is going to be a tax deductible way to fund your event. And with the nonprofit, you're going to have a deal with them where you either give 10%, 20%, or 30% of the profits to the nonprofit. So the event that I'm using as an example, I gave the nonprofit that I partnered with 30% of the profit. So they ended up making, a couple of $1,000 or almost $2,000. And all they really had to do was collect the checks and deposit the checks into their account so that the sponsors could get a write-off. Okay. And so in this way, you don't need the nonprofit to really do any work, right? So that's the benefit to them. Hey, I don't need you to do much work. I just need you to, process the checks. And if they want to be involved and help organize the event, they can. So the next step is, once you get that settled, the next step is to create a theme for your event and connect it to a cause. So for example, I did a book signing event for my book. I have it here, for my book, Why Wakanda Matters. Okay, this book is about what the movie Black Panther can teach us about mental health in the Black community. And so the book signing event that I did was about mental health in the Black community post-pandemic. So that was the theme of my event, and I connected it to a cause. So the cause was that I wanted to raise money for the bookstore that I was actually doing the book signing event at. And it was a Black-owned bookstore. So that gives people incentive to support my event. Hey, everybody, I've connected with this nonprofit. We're raising money to fund this Black-owned bookstore that was impacted by the pandemic. And we're also supporting mental health in the Black community, right? So again, as I go through these steps, you need to be thinking in your head, okay, what causes do I care about? What themes might my comic book or podcast, right, relate to that will make sense and that will help me give back to the community, right? So once you have your nonprofit that has agreed to help you with this, you create a theme and you connect it to a cause, because this is going to help you when you start sending the emails out to potential businesses that are going to be funding your event. The next thing you're going to do is contact the businesses. These are called corporate sponsors. And you're going to start out with businesses that you have relationships with. And when we say businesses, don't automatically think like, Coca-Cola or, billion-dollar businesses. Think about the people you know. Do you have friends that have small businesses? Do you, have acquaintances that have mid-sized businesses that would want to get a tax write-off, but also support a good cause? And you're going to be compelling and really lay out in the email that you send to these businesses what you're looking, what it is you're looking to do with this event. So in a minute, I'm going to share my screen. I'm going to flip to a sample email that you can use. I'll also provide this email to you in a PDF so that you can use it and adapt it for your needs. Also think about businesses that you frequent. Like I go to the coffee shop every day and buy a $5 latte, and I've made friends with the baristas there. And so that was definitely a business that I reached out to when I was asking for money for my event. So give me a second. I'm going to stop my share screen, and I'm actually going to switch over to my email here, just so I can show you a sample email. And again, you'll get this as a PDF resource so that you can see exactly what this looks like. But I'm going to take you through some key areas that you want to include in the email. So alrighty. Now I'm going to share my screen again. Alrighty. We are. Okay, so here we are. Let me move my my little box out of your way. Okay, so take this sample email. This is a sample email that I actually sent to my local representative in city council here in Philadelphia. And so again, you're not going to be able to read this whole thing just through this email. You'll get the PDF. But I started the email out with telling her, who I am and, why I'm contacting her. And then, letting her know that I've partnered with a nonprofit and what the nonprofit is about. And then, you're going to describe your event, and the entire email is important, but, you want to have a little section that talks about what you're asking. So here I say, I'm asking for $3,000, and I tell them why. What are the expenses and the costs involved? That's telling them, why you're asking for this money. And then you're going to tell them what they're going to get in exchange. You're going to get a tax write-off. You're going to be included in our visual branding on our digital media marketing pre and post event. Have a link to any successful past events that you've done, whether it's a link to pictures or videos. So this link takes them to a photo album of a past book signing event that I did when I used to do book signing events, the ways that made me go broke. It takes them to samples of that. And then you want to include, to make it look really official, a schedule. So this right here is a schedule, what I'm thinking the schedule is going to look like for the event, a breakdown of what's going to happen. The event is going to be 2 to 4 p.m. And, this is what it's going to look like. And then the other thing that you want to have is definitely an EPK, because the people that you're reaching out to, some of them may know you, but you want to have an EPK, an electronic press kit, that shows them exactly what you're about, who you are. Do you have a following? What have you been doing? And I will provide you with a PDF of this sample EPK, because you want to attach this to all of the emails that you send. So that gives you credibility, but it also shows the sponsors that you're serious and you know what you're doing. And this is a numbers game, meaning the more people you reach out to, the more likely you are to get funded. So it'll be in your best interest to reach out to as many businesses as possible. And you're doing all of this via email mostly, right? You're doing all of this via email. And then let's say you reach out to 15 people. If 3 respond and they all give you $3,000, that's $9,000 for your event. Let's say 3 respond and they only give you $1,000. Well, that's $3,000 that you didn't have before for your event. And if you're reaching out to businesses that you have an existing relationship with, that you've worked with before, maybe they're businesses that you did a free speaking engagement at, maybe there are businesses that you've helped out before, they might even give you $250, right? all of that adds up as funding for your event. Now, for this particular example that I'm using, as we move to the next step that says accept donations from attendees optional. So my event and the example that I'm using for this video is a book signing event. And I used Eventbrite, eventbrite.com, in order to create tickets for the event. And in order to get a ticket for my event, you did have to give a donation of at least $1 when you RSVP'd. And that was because I needed to know how many people were actually going to come to the event, and I needed to reserve their book. And so a lot of times when you do free events, 100 people sign up, only 30 people show. Well, I don't want to show up with 100 books if only 30 people are going to show. So in this way, if you're collecting donations from Eventbrite when they RSVP, it's more likely that when somebody donates, they're actually going to show up. So that gives you a better idea of how many books you need to have at that event. Now, here's the cool thing with this idea as well. If you're doing a book signing event with a publisher, you're going to send them that same corporate sponsorship email, and you're going to say, hey, I'm doing this book signing event. It's for a good cause. I'm looking for you to donate books, right? So, normally you'd have to, buy the books at a 50% discount, and that's money out of your pocket. But if they donate the books, you're getting those books for free. You're saving a lot of money. And in my particular example, my publisher did donate the books, and they covered the shipping. And again, it's processed through the nonprofit that you're working with, so they get their tax donation. Likewise, if the publisher doesn't want to donate the books, you send them that same corporate sponsorship email asking them to help fund the event. So, you organize the event, you do the same thing that you would normally do for a book signing event or a live podcast event or whatever book or whatever event idea that you have as a result of watching this video. You split the funds with the nonprofit. In my example, I gave 30% to the nonprofit, and then you always want to give back. So I'm going to show you go to the next slide and give you an example breakdown of the cost. So events the paid way, let's say you raise $6,000, which you may have raised more. This is not a difficult thing to do, since again, it's a numbers game. The more businesses you reach out to and your local representatives and your your Congress, not your Congress people, but your state legislator in your city and that kind of thing, you will get funding. So in my example, the venue was free because I told I had an existing relationship with the bookstore, and two, I said, hey, I want to raise money for your store. So you want to pick a venue that is free, that you want to keep costs down. In this example, you raise $6,000, 30% split to the nonprofit. So that's $1,800. If I have my numbers right, let me just get the calculator and make sure, because I am not the person that you come to for, if you want help with math. I'm the person that uses a calculator. So it is right. 1,800 goes to the nonprofit. Advertising and flyers about 150. Again, you're not being extravagant or on your expenses. $70 flyer, maybe $40 to print it out. I didn't spend any money on Facebook ads or things like that. It's all word of mouth, social media, my mailing list, which we'll talk about later, that kind of thing. Share the flyer with the sponsors so they can share it with their network. The books, you want to get those books for free from the publisher if you can. If not, that is going to come out of your funding. You definitely want to have a photographer there at your event. You want to make sure they get paid. That's going to cost you approximately $350, and maybe someone that'll do it for free. That's great. For my event, I had a keynote speaker that spoke about mental health in the Black community, gave them an honorarium of $250. You might want to have a helper. You want to pay them. The event was only 2 hours, so they might have spent 3 or 4 hours helping you out with the event. It's going to be $150, give or take. And then $1,000 to the venue, because remember, you raised the money for the venue, so you want to give them as much as you can out of your funding, $1,000. And then once you add up all of those expenses and the hours that you spent on the event, you want to pay yourself. And in this example, what's left is $2,300. And that's how much you're going to make as the person who's hosting the event, organizing the event, putting all the time and effort to put this event together. In this example, you just paid yourself $2,300. You got the benefit of everybody getting a tax write-off that was involved. You paid everybody that was involved. You got so much, you reached out. In this example, you also want to reach out to the press and get media coverage for the event. So, right, you're paying yourself, but you're also benefiting from the marketing of your event, and everybody's happy and everybody's loving you. So that is the first way that you can monetize being a comics creator, right? Whether you're a writer, creator, if you're involved with a book in any way, this is a way that you want to do events where you're not coming out of your pocket. If you have any questions, leave a question in the comments, check out the PDF resources, and we'll see you in the next video where we'll begin to talk about ways that you can make extra income on a monthly basis from various things.